Okay, in this video I'm going to go over the second set of practice problems on truth tables and validity. And I'm assuming that you've looked at this chapter on validity and truth tables, that you've read it, and that you're familiar with this box that lists the conditions when a line is a good line and when a line is a bad line. Okay, so we'll get started. Okay, I should say, if you don't know, I'm looking at the column under the Q and the column under the not sign. Okay, now to fill in the column under the turnstile, we're going to look at the main logical operator for the first premise, which is the double arrow. So we're looking at this column here. The main logical operator for the second premise, the ampersand, so this column here. And then our conclusion is just the P. So on line 1, the first premise is true, the second premise is false, and the conclusion is true. Okay, so that's fine. That's a good line. On the second line, the first premise is false, second premise is true, conclusion is true. Okay, that's fine. That's a good line. Line 3, true, false, and true. That's fine. That's a good line. Line 4, false, false, and true. That's fine. That's a good line. False, false, and false. Okay, that's still a good line. So recall, we're just looking for lines that violate the definition of valid, which is if the premises are true, then the conclusion has to be true. So the only way to violate that definition is if our premises are true and the conclusion is false. So line 6, true, true, and false. Okay, so this is a line that does violate the definition of valid. So we put an X there. False, false, and false. Again, that's fine. Does not violate that definition. True, false, and false. Again, that's fine. All right. So we have at least one line that's a bad line in our truth table. So that means that the argument is invalid. Okay, to do the ampersand, I'm looking at the column under the Q and the column under the not sign. Okay, now for the first premise, I'm looking at the column under the double arrow. For the second premise, I'm looking at the column under the ampersand. And for the conclusion, I'm looking at the column under the wedge. So false, false, and true. It's fine. True, true, and true. That's definitely fine. False, false, and true. That's fine. True, false, and true. That's fine. True, false, and true. That's fine. False, true, and false. That's fine. True, false, and true. That's fine. False, false, and false. It's also fine. Okay, so if we did that correctly, we did. Every line is a good line, and so that means our argument is valid. Okay, now this time we're going to do this a little bit differently. So rather than going through each line, let's just look for lines where both of our premises are true. So line 1, no. Line 2, yes. Okay, so here we have a line where both premises are true. So we're going to check if the conclusion is true or false. The conclusion is false, and so that's going to get an X. Line 3, both premises are not true. Line 4, both premises are not true. Line 5, both premises are not true. 6, no. 7, no. And 8, no. Okay, so on no other line do we have all true premises. That means no matter what's going on with the conclusion, those can't be bad lines, so they're all going to get checks. Okay, however, we do have this one bad line, so therefore this argument is invalid. Okay, for this arrow, for the column under the arrow, I'm looking at the column under the ampersand and the column under the R. Okay, so again, we will look for lines where both premises are true. Okay, so we're looking at the column under the arrow. Arrow is the main logical operator in our first premise, and the column under the not sign. So line 1, both premises are not true. Line 2, both premises are not true. Line 3, both premises are true. So we check the conclusion. It's true, so that gets a check. Line 4, both premises are true. The conclusion is false, so that gets an X. Line 5, both premises are not true. Line 6, both premises are not true. Line 7, both premises are true. Conclusion is true, so that gets a check. Line 8, both premises are true. Conclusion is true, so again that gets a check. Okay, we fill in the other lines, which do not have all true premises with checks. They're fine. Check it. Okay, so we do have this one bad line, however, and so our argument again is invalid. Okay, so now we have three premises, P double arrow, not S, and then Q is our third premise. So we need to look at all three premises, and then our conclusion is P and Q. So is there any line where all three premises are true? Line 1, no. Line 2, yes. The conclusion is true on this line, so that gets a check. Line 3, no. Line 4, no. Line 5, no. Line 6, no. Line 7, no. And line 8, no. Okay, so we just have this one line where all three of our premises are true. So therefore, the rest of these lines have to be good lines. Shoot, let's see here. There we are. That's false. That doesn't change anything, however. Alrighty. Okay, so all of our lines are good lines, so this argument is valid. Okay, there we go.